Today is a great day to have a great day, and today I'm going to tell y'all my 5 favorite glute workouts that has brought me from having no butt to having a butt. Now, I'm not exactly where I want to be in my glute and peach building journey, but I have come a long way from being 97 pounds and being as flat as a wall to where I am now at 121.8 pounds, having some little bit of some thickness and some curvage. When it comes to glutes, glutes are by far my favorite muscle group to train. Legs, glutes, hamstrings, you name it. I love me a lower body day. Before I was diagnosed with cancer, I used to train legs 3, sometimes 4 days a week, to the point where it kind of was overkill, and I did finally hit a plateau where I was not really seeing much growth or change in my lower half. I am only training legs 2 days a week, and in those 2 days I do have a couple days off so I can let my lower body recover, because when you are building muscles, you are basically tearing apart and breaking down your muscles and those muscle fibers. So you really want to make sure you're giving your body, no matter what muscle group you are training, you want to give your body enough rest. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this video and I'll tell you guys my 5 favorite glute workouts to build the peach. Number 1, this is gonna be by far my favorite glute workout, and that is gonna be hip thrust. There are many different variations of hip thrust or hip thrust type movements like glute bridges, frog thrust, stuff like that that will really emphasize on your glutes. To me, hip thrusts have been the most influential workout in the growth of my glutes, and that's because when you are doing hip thrusts, your glutes are under tension and being contracted and just working the entire time. Brett Contreras, the glute guy, he has so many articles and so much glute research that hip thrusts are actually one of the most important and one of the most influential workouts to really grow those glutes. When I train my glutes, I have hip thrusts in every single leg workout. I am doing a hip thrust or a hip thrust variation 2 times a week. My biggest advice when it comes to hip thrust is making sure your core is tight and keeping your spine and your neck in a neutral position. I like to keep my chin tucked and looking straight ahead when I am doing hip thrust. You do not want to look up, look to the side. You want to keep your head in a nice neutral position. When it comes to feet placement, you want to make sure your legs are 90 degrees. You want to make sure your knee and shin are straight up and down, and you do not want your knee going over your toes. That's when you will start to have more quad focus and you'll hurt your knee. At least I hurt my knee when my knees go over my toe. I also like to fan my feet out to a 15-degree angle. When I go down slow, and when I'm getting ready to explode up, I'm gonna make sure I am pressing through my heels. That is when you're gonna start really feeling it in your glutes and your hamstring. I also like to have a 1 to 2 second pause up at the top when I'm contracting those glutes and really squeezing those glutes. You wanna make sure you have good form, so always work on your form before you advance in your weights. Glute workout number 2. This is gonna be squats. I love squats. I love all these workouts, but hip thrusts and squats are probably my 2 favorite glute workouts, and these are both compound movements. There are many different variations of squats. I like to do Smith machine squats. I personally feel the most activation and most pain, like good pain, in the Smith machine squats. This allows me to put my feet out a little bit further than a normal squat where you have the barbell on your back and your feet are right underneath you. I've noticed that when I put my feet out a little bit further and shoulder width apart, but having my toes a little out, I'm really engaging those glutes a lot more. I am a very quad dominant person, so my quads like to engage in squats a lot more, and I will feel engagement in my quads before I feel them in my glutes when I do squats. So the Smith machine squats, where I put my feet maybe a couple inches in front of me, is where I feel the most engagement in my glutes. I like to have my feet a little fanned out, and you want to make sure your knees are tracking with your foot. You do not want your knees to fold in, you do not want your knees to fold out. That is how you have an injury. So everybody's squat form is going to look a little different. I do have a couple injuries on my left knee where I've had ACL surgeries, so my squat form is a little different and a little staggered than the normal person, but whatever works best for you, that's what I suggest doing. When you are doing the squat, you can have the barbell up on your shoulders. That's where I personally like it the best, or you can have it a little bit lower. You will feel it a little bit more in your glutes if you have the bar a little bit lower on your back, but I personally do not like it. It does not feel comfortable for me. When you are doing your squat, you want to make sure you are going parallel or below parallel. There's scientific study that does show when you do go a little bit below parallel, that is when you're really going to start hitting those glutes and activating those glutes. And my biggest suggestion when you are doing the squats is first start out with body weighted squats if you've never done a squat, and then slowly add the weight. Your form is going to be way more important than your actual weight. Workout number 3 is going to be deadlifts, more specifically sumo deadlifts. There's conventional deadlifts, which is where you're standing with your feet basically shoulder width apart, and then sumo deadlifts is where your feet are going to be further than shoulder width apart and your feet are going to be angled out. The sumo deadlift is my favorite between sumo and conventional. I personally feel way more glute connection and engagement with sumo deadlifts. The sumo deadlift is going to initiate your hips, glutes, and quads and hamstrings a lot more than the conventional deadlift. The conventional deadlift really hits your lower body, but specifically in your hamstrings. When you are doing a sumo deadlift, you want to make sure your feet are a little bit further than shoulder width apart, and you want to have your toes turned out to a 15 to 45 degree angle. I personally like to have my feet turned out a little more than 15 degrees, more around 30 to 35. It feels the best for me. You really want to make sure though, when you are doing your sumo deadlift or any type of deadlift, you want to make sure your shoulders are rolled back and your lats are engaged. This is going to help protect your back, and you're also not going to be engaging your shoulders or your arms because you don't want to do that. You want to make sure your arms are straight, shoulders are rolled back, and you want to have your chest up the entire time. You do not want to go down and hunch over. You want to keep those shoulders rolled back, arms tight, your core is tight, and you want to focus on that mind to muscle connection and contraction. When it comes to sumo deadlifts or deadlifts, you really want to make sure you're having good form. I suggest starting with a lighter weight and practicing your form. If you are doing this wrong and your form is off, you can really hurt yourself, just like in any workout, but you can really injure your back when it comes to deadlifts. So make sure before you up your weight that your form is pretty much perfect or perfect. It should probably be perfect before you up your weight. Glute workout number 4 is going to be a single leg Romanian deadlift. Romanian deadlifts have been a staple even before I got sick in my leg day because my hamstrings are so weak, especially my left hamstring. I've had 2 ACL surgeries, so half of my hamstring is missing on that left leg. So doing single leg movements, especially this accessory movement, really helps that hamstring, and it gives me that extra time to focus specifically on recruiting that hamstring and recruiting those muscles to really engage and grow. When it comes to single leg RDLs, you will need to have balance, and you will be using your core to really engage and keep yourself nice and balanced. There are other variations of the single leg RDL that I personally like a lot better than what you see a lot, and that one is where people have the dumbbell in front of them and they're balancing on one leg and kicking the other leg back. I personally do not have the balance or coordination for that. I like to do 4 single leg RDLs is put all the pressure on the leg that I'm focusing on. So my right leg, I will put all that pressure, and then I will have my left leg staggered a little bit behind it, but putting a little tiny bit of pressure in my toes. That helps me balance just a little bit. That way I can really focus on that mind to muscle connection and contraction instead of worrying about connecting and engaging my hamstrings, my quads, my glutes, and trying not to fall. I have noticed a lot more engagement and growth in my hamstrings when I am having my foot down and not focusing on balancing. you really want to make sure that you have that dumbbell really close to your leg. I actually let that dumbbell slide on my quad and go down, and that just helps me make sure my body is in line. For glute workout number 5, this is going to be an accessory workout, and this is going to be lunges. There are so many different variations of lunges. You can do walking lunges, reverse lunges, static lunges, and let me tell you, lunges, they are deadly. They're amazing. They make the glutes look so good. But Bulgarian split squats have been my favorite in any type of form of lunges. When you are performing the Bulgarian split squat, you're really putting a lot of emphasis on that glute. I like to put my foot on a bench and keep myself pretty close to the bench, so that way I have a nice range of motion when I do go down. I will be able to go down as deep as possible to where my butt is almost touching the ground, and then I will explode up. I really like to make sure that my knee does not go over my toe, but there are times where my knee will go over my toe just because I do have a longer femur. So if your knee does go over your toe, it's not the end of the world. Just try to adjust as well as you can and as comfortably as you can. This is gonna look a little different for everybody. Some people like to have their front foot a little further out from the bench. Some people like to be close like I do. Another tip that I find helps a ton when it comes to the Bulgarian split squat is holding on to something with my other hand. That way I'm not concentrating on falling. I can really concentrate on keeping my shoulders back, my chest up, and really going down as far as I can in that Bulgarian split squat. When it comes to compound movements like the hip thrust, the squat, and the sumo deadlifts, I will do 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps. It all depends. Sometimes I will throw a pyramid scheme in there, which means I will be doing 6 to 7 sets. So it all depends on what my training schedule looks like for that day. When it comes to accessory movements like Romanian deadlifts and lunges, I will keep my weight at a little bit lighter, so that way I can do a higher rep range. I'll still keep my sets to 3 sets, but I'll usually end up doing 10 to 12, sometimes 15 reps for each set. All right, y'all, that is gonna be it for this video. I hope I covered everything. If you do have any more questions, let me know in the comments down below and I will answer them as best as I can. And if I did miss any tips and you guys have other tips on form or anything like that, leave those down below as well. Remember, everybody is going to be different and genetics do play a major role in your body type. So do not get discouraged on your fitness journey. Just keep working hard and you will get to that body you want. And always remember to be kind to yourself and to be kind to one another. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.